alcohol on different occasions due to fluctuating factors such as mood, food intake, and even sleepiness. Males and females are affected differently by alcohol. Men generally have more muscle tissue, which does not allow alcohol absorption into the bloodstream as readily as fat. A person who has a higher percentage of fat than another person of the same weight will reach a higher alcohol concentration by consuming the same amount of alcohol. The only way to reduce your alcohol concentration is to wait. Some people think you go drink coffee, take a cold shower, eat bread, crackers. Yeah, that may help your stomach feel better because it's sloshing around, and that food helps it stop that. But the only thing that will decrease your alcohol concentration or your content is going to be waiting. Okay, your body will release or dissipate alcohol at a rate of 0.015% an hour. So if you're at a 0.15, it's going to take you approximately about 4 to 5 hours to become under that 0.08 limit. So, and obviously that's going to differ between age, sex, and body content. So the body eliminates 95% of alcohol through oxidation by the liver. The remaining alcohol is eliminated through breathing, perspiration, urinating. So that's why when I stop someone, I can tell immediately if they've been drinking. Just from the odor. Your body releases the odor and toxins through your skin. That's why a lot of people may sweat more when they drink. You could smell that profusely when you walk up to a car. Also, your blood vessels will, what's the opposite of contract? Expand? Okay. So that allows your blood is flowing more. That's why when you drink, you may get rosy red cheeks, your face becomes more flushed, we call it. It's flushed with blood. That's because the blood is circulating faster and your blood vessels are larger. Drinking coffee, exercising, and taking cold showers do not increase the rate of oxidation. So we just talked about that. Making lower risk choices. Social drinking frequently leads to impaired driving. The safest policy is this. If you're going to drink, don't drive. And if you're going to drive, don't drink. Some alternatives to driving impaired are designate a driver, call a taxi, call a friend, stay overnight at a friend's house, take away the keys if a friend is impaired. Because alcohol consumption impairs judgment, it is important to make a decision while you're sober about how you avoid impaired driving later. So a lot of underage parties that we go to, or people that we talk to, they decide, okay, I'm going to go to this party and I'll figure out my ride later. Okay, that's what they're saying. Make the decision first. Yeah, no one wants to be the sober cab or drive around all their drunk friends. You got to stop at White Castle and McDonald's and they're yelling from the back. But I will tell you, it's a huge relief when people are sober cabbing. When I stop a car and the driver is completely sober and they have about 4 friends in the back yelling, screaming, they're raging, they have the music going. Just the fact that you know that they're making safe choices, they're not going to hurt anyone tonight, and they're getting their friends home safely. Same thing with that. People do not want to call their parents if they've been drinking. You understand that you may get in trouble and whatnot, but I'll tell you that a parent would much rather a call from you saying, can you come get me, rather than me go and knock on the door and tell them that something happened either to you or that you harmed someone else and now you're sitting in a jail cell. They're going to appreciate that call from you more. Yeah, you may get yelled at and get yelled at for a week and get grounded, but that decision will affect your lifetime for sure. Minnesota DWI laws. So DWI and DUI, we're talking about the same thing. They're just 2 different acronyms. So DUI is driving under the influence. DWI is driving while impaired or while intoxicated. A person with an alcohol concentration of 0.08 or higher, or is 0.04 if the person is driving a commercial motor vehicle, who is in control of a moving or parked vehicle, can be arrested for driving while impaired. So it says also a parked vehicle. I've arrested many people that they try to do the right thing. They've driven for a couple miles from their party or bar, and they decide, you know what, actually this is a bad idea. They pull over, and the car is still running, and the keys are ignition, and they're just trying to sleep. yeah, they made the right decision there, but they got there somehow, and you can actually still be arrested for it. It's called physical control of a motor vehicle. So just make the conscious decision not to start driving, realize it, and then try to pull over. So you can still get DUI if you're parked. If a law enforcement officer can prove that alcohol caused the driver to commit driving errors, he or she can be arrested for DUI or DWI at an alcohol concentration as low as 0.04. So when we said that it affects people differently, maybe you haven't drank ever, it's your 21st, and you're out drinking with some friends, and we do field sobriety. I see that you're impaired just by the field sobriety and your driving behavior, and you blow into the PBT, and you're only at a 06, you can still be arrested for DUI because your ability to drive was impaired. Doesn't mean there's a per se limit, which is 08, if you're over that, automatic. But I can also prove in court that your driving ability was impaired even at a 06. So keep that in mind. Just because you see the magic 08 or less than an 08 number, you can still be arrested, and I've done it, a handful of times. So implied consent law. If a law enforcement officer has probable cause to believe a driver is impaired and is operating or in physical control of a motor vehicle, the driver is required to submit to a test of his or her blood, breath, or urine. It is a crime to refuse to submit to this test. Refusal to take this test will result in a 1 to 6 year revocation of driving privileges depending upon the number of offenses on record. So, when you sign that dotted line at the DMV when you get your license, in there it is the implied consent law. So I stop you, we run you through fields, I notice that you're impaired, I arrest you. I'm going to bring you back to the police station or jail, and there's going to be a machine called either the data master. There's different machines that we use to determine the alcohol concentration. I'm going to read the implied consent law, which is saying, hey, if you don't do this, your driver's license will be revoked. If they say, nope, I'm not going to give you a breath, my next step is now to hit the refusal button. Your license, even if you come back under 08 and you just want to be a jerk about it and you're just trying to do that, it doesn't matter. Your license is now automatically revoked for a minimum of 1 year. It can be more depending on how many, but it's a minimum of 1 year. And then what I do after that anyway is I bring you to the hospital and I draw up a search warrant for your blood. I call a judge on the phone and I say, this is why I think this person is impaired. I need their blood to tell me how impaired they are. And then the judge either says yes or no. With that search warrant, I have legal authority to either demand a blood draw from a nurse, or if you want to still fight that, then you get held down and the blood is still drawn if there's a search warrant. So just because you refuse all these tests doesn't mean that you're going to get out of it. Does that make sense? So when you sign that paperwork, that means that you are advising that you will consent to a blood draw or a breath test. This law also applies to operation of recreational vehicles such as boats, snowmobiles, and ATVs. A law enforcement officer may ask you to blow into a roadside preliminary screening device. This pre-test breath test helps the officer determine how much alcohol you have in your system. This instrument is only used as an indicator of your alcohol concentration level, and the results have limited use in evidence of court. Basically, that PBT, they're called, on the roadside that you see on cops or whatever, where they're blowing into this little device, that's not admissible in court. All that does is just help the officer make a determination of your impairment level. The thing that comes into court is the one at the PD, the actual machine that we use. If you are arrested, you will be required to submit to a blood, breath, or urine test that can be used as evidence. Any law enforcement officer may ask you to take the test when you are under arrest for DWI. You refuse to take a pre-test breath test, take and fail a pre-test breath test, are involved in an alcohol-related crash that causes personal injury, property damage, or death. So most of the time when we have a large crash where someone is severely injured or someone died, we will take the causing driver, run them through field sobriety, and also go do a breath test at the PD. That wipes out anything it doesn't mean that you're impaired. We just want to make sure that you are not impaired, because if you are impaired, obviously that leads to other consequences. The pre-arrest breath test can be beneficial to drivers who appear to be intoxicated but are not. What that's saying is that PBT, if you're doing field sobriety and you know that you haven't had anything to drink, and the officer asks you to blow into the preliminary breath test, that's your chance to say, hey, I'm not impaired. Yeah, let me blow into it. I've had people say, no, I'm not going to do that. I have to take what I've seen, your driving behavior, your tests, into consideration. And if you don't blow into that, that just, sometimes I don't, you're unsure about what possibly is on board in your system. So that's your chance to prove that you're not impaired. Some medical conditions have symptoms similar to those associated with intoxication. Law enforcement officers will obtain medical assistance for drivers who are ill. The biggest one is diabetes. I've been behind people with diabetes and going through a diabetic episode. They react just like DUI drivers. They're all over the road because their concentration and everything is off as well, and they react just like DUI driver. Even when I get up to the window, they're kind of slow, groggy, and usually you can be able to determine that once you get up there. A lot of diabetics will carry like juice, orange juice in their car or any kind of food, and that's what we can do to help them get their balance back up. Penalties associated with an alcohol-related revocation of a driver's license include a $680 reinstatement fee and completion of a DWI knowledge test, driver's license application, and may also require a chemical assessment. Each offense has unique criminal penalties in addition to administrative sanctions depending on the arrest situation, previous driving violations, and criminal record. Penalties will be more severe if the driver